Hello, online pipe community. Ethan, Parsimonious Piper here. Today we are going to have some more morsels for mental manducation with a dive back into C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. But first, in a little Pipe by Lee 2-star, acorn shape, the diamond shank, kind of call it an acorn dog. Got a little more of that Watch City Simply Red. Y'all are tired of hearing about it by this point, so I won't bother. Hadn't changed at all. Let's dive in. Now, last time we were looking at chapter 3, we ended with the conclusion that the moral law is in fact something real, and that it exists outside of us. It is not something directly observable. Well, in chapter 4, we're going to take a first glance at what's behind the moral law. Now, there are basically two views of the universe. A little breezy, so this is burning a little fast. There are basically two views of the universe. There is the materialist view, which posits that the universe simply exists, always has existed. And there's the religious view, which, in contrast, in some form or other, says, no, the universe was created by some kind of a sentient being. Now, the materialist view, in a video unrelated to the C.S. Lewis series here, I discussed the odds of the simplest protein having developed randomly. And if you recall, those odds are, for all intents and purposes, 0. Mathematically speaking. So if the materialist view is so incredibly improbable, then that leaves some form of the religious view that this universe was in fact created by some form of intelligent being. No, we're not making the leap to the Christian God right now. We're just talking in general terms. But this being would be most, at its simplest, described as being self-aware, as being intelligent, as being thinking, a mind of some sort. Of course, the dogs decide right now to play in the background, desperately needing some attention, I guess. Give me just a moment. And we're back. Materialist versus religious view of the universe. Science can't be expected to answer this question either, or to decide between the two. Why? Because science requires a falsifiable hypothesis, and it requires repeatable results. If you don't have those things, then what you're doing may be an intelligent conjecture, but it's not science. We have a lot of people who insist that things that are not falsifiable and not reproducible must be science yet, but they're not. Science, likewise, cannot be expected to give us answers about the origin of the moral law. Why? Well, science can observe and describe how we behave. Science can even make hypotheses about how we will behave given certain circumstances. But we already know that the way we do behave doesn't comport with the moral law. Science can't tell us anything about the moral law. It may be able to tell us what we will do. It can hypothesize what we will do, right or wrong, but it can't tell us what we ought to do. Science doesn't know anything about that. In that sense, science is oblivious to the moral law. So against this, we have the religious view. At its most basic, the religious view holds that some form of sentient mind created the universe. Why? Because the alternative is that it just happened, and we've already kind of dispensed with that in probability. You wouldn't take the odds of the simplest protein evolving randomly in any other aspect of your life. I can guarantee you. If someone held a gun to your head and said, the odds of you surviving this are this small, would you take that? No, you wouldn't. So we've kind of dispensed with that, but what does that leave us? That leaves us with the created universe. And this creator, whatever it is outside the universe, because the creator exists independently of the universe. So how would we, as part of the universe, ever be able to know anything about this creator? It seems to Lewis, and I tend to agree with him, that the only way for us to know anything about this creator is if the creator chooses somehow to show himself. Revelation, if you would. Not referring to the biblical book, but to the concept of this creator revealing himself to us in some way. Now here Lewis presents as a conclusion that therefore the moral law is a communication, is a revelation of the creator. I'm not entirely convinced that that's established as a conclusion. I do, however, believe that the universality of moral law and the fact that we all have it and we all know when we've broken it, that these are hints, that they're evidences of a form, at least, of this creator revealing himself to us. I don't by any means think it's the only way, and I don't think it's a given necessarily, but I do think that it's likely. Because like the creator, the moral law is something outside us. It exists in a different dimension, a different plane. It isn't part of our physical reality. And it's universal enough that everybody's pretty much heard the same message at some level. And that's where I'll leave it this week. Is just moving from the idea that the moral law is in fact real and it's outside of us, to where did this moral law come from then? And the universe, in all likelihood, has a creator. Does this moral law come as a form of revelation or communication from the creator to us as part of the creation? I think it does. With that, I'll tell you, light something you like. Ponder it. Enjoy your afternoon.